Perfect. Thank you very much. So welcome everyone to this month's episode of Texas Leadership Network Mastermind Group. We do meet every second Thursday of the month at lunchtime Central Time. So from 12 to 1 Central Time. I know some of you are in different time zones. Welcome. Some of you are familiar with what we have here, the group that we've pulled together, and continue to invite people. And some of you are brand new to our mastermind. So welcome to all of you. And we're so glad that you're here today. So what in the world is a mastermind? Just in case you're not familiar, it really is about peer mentoring. The great thing about this particular mastermind is we have several coaches on the call who are able to add input to these groups, which I think is absolutely amazing. A lot of times we'll only see 1 or 2 coaches in a mastermind, and we have several that join us every month, which is very exciting. So it really is a unique way of bringing business owners and leaders together so that we can learn from each other's experiences, good and bad, right? And the consequences behind making those decisions. And this month, we're going to be talking about the 80-20 rule, which Mark Rhodes is going to be presenting here in just a few minutes. It is also about networking and creating accountability for each other. So as we have folks introduce themselves today, if you would put your contact information in the chat window, I would love for you guys to connect offline if you find that it is someone in an industry or even just a person that you'd like to connect with outside of the mastermind. Group basics, no comments are bad comments. We want you to participate. This is really about us as a group having ideas together. It's not just a listening exercise, it's an activity participation exercise. So Mark will do a small presentation of the topic at the front, and then we'll have plenty of opportunity at the back of our mastermind today to have a great conversation. We want to share skills. We're going to hold each other accountable. And of course, networking is always a plus. So be sure and use the chat window. These are all of the coaches that are engaged or involved in Texas Leadership Network. You may see some of them here today. Not everyone can make every one of our masterminds. So thank you to our TLN network for putting this on every single month. What I would like to do, because we have so many new faces here, and I don't want to go too long on time, but what I would love for you to do is if you would introduce yourself, tell us the business or the company that you're with, and tell us how you found us. That would be great. If you have some other things to offer, you're welcome to put that in the chat window. So Jesse, I know you've been here with us a couple of times. You want to do a quick intro?
Sorry, yes.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Oh, yeah, it's not. Well, hello, everybody. So yes, my name is Jesse. I have been here a few times, and I say they have some wonderful people and conversations that works that brain muscle. And that's all I need to say. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thank you, Jesse. Greg, welcome back. I know you are a follower and have been coming for several months now. Would you please introduce yourself, sir?
Greg Alt with Paramount Services. I have a fractional CFO and bookkeeping firm based here in Houston.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Judy Sherman, would you introduce yourself real quick?
I am not muted. There I go. So hi, everyone. I'm Judy Sherman with Cornerstone Wealth Strategies up here in Northeast Tarrant County, Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we specialized working with business owners, helping them address the ever so important question of exactly what do I need or expect to get out of my business to secure the financial future for my family and myself. So, and I was introduced to this really excellent organization through ArtLock.
Excellent, Judy. Yeah, welcome. Fantastic. Eli, would you please introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, so hello everyone. My first time here. My name is Liran or Eli Bracha. I own Fortuna Management. I got here through Google actually, looking for mastermind groups. We moved to Houston from Israel last summer, so we're pretty new in the US and in Houston in particular. In Israel, I used to deal in the aviation industry with the R&D, research and development, project management, and and innovation, mostly business development. Here I deal mostly with property management, maintenance, and renovation. And now I'm looking to expand or move into other fields, such as maybe hardscape or water damage, but I'm still open-minded to other places. Either way, I would love to help anyone that would like another mind to mastermind, because I'm really good at solving problems. That's it.
Excellent. Welcome, Eli. Thank you for being
Thank you
here.
very much.
Karen Laguerre, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I believe I joined this group a few months ago, and I just haven't had the chance since to come back, but yay, I'm back. I'm really excited. I'm actually located out of Victoria, BC. I work with a lot of clients and partners based out of Texas, so here to meet you all. And yeah, looking forward to this session. I work for RFDM Solutions, which is a full stack digital marketing agency, so doing CRM systems implementations, digital marketing, web development, and business automation solutions.
Excellent. Welcome back, Karen. We're glad to have you. Captain Joe, would you please introduce yourself, sir?
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Fasten your seatbelts as we prepare your business to take off. Hi, I'm Captain Joe, your captain of online reviews. Give me a thumbs up if your reputation is important to your business success. Excellent. Book your flight with me at givemeathumbsup.com.
I love it. Joe, welcome. How did you find us?
Co-pilot Sean.
Excellent. I love it. It's fantastic. All right. Karen McCoy, would you please introduce yourself this morning?
Good afternoon and happy Thursday to everyone. I hope y'all can hear me well. Thank you. I found this group by accident. I was searching for something else and I had the word Texas in it, and Texas Mastermind popped up. It's like, oh, what's this group about? That's how I got here today. I'm also called I'm ambassador of the Ladies of Justice, which is part of Legal Shield. So we help individuals and businesses with their legal concerns and your identity theft concerns. And I also have a mobile notary signing business as well. Interested to be here. Thank you all.
Excellent. Welcome, Karen. We're so glad to have you. Priya, I think you've been with us before.
Yes, I was. I missed the last one, I think. I had a meeting conflict. I am not in Texas. I am in Sacramento, California. And I was invited by Sean when we first met. This group is amazing. I loved it last time when I was here. So I was like, I got to come back. So I'm here again. I am actually a business financial coach, and I mainly work with small business owners, helping them build a relationship with their own finances and giving them clarity and bird's eye view of how money moves throughout their organization, so they're able to make better financial decisions for their business. The reason I work mainly with small business owners is because I worked with the government for over 15 years as a business investigator, and small businesses are the ones that suffer the most. So I decided to take all that knowledge back and bring it home to small business owners and help them set up stronger to begin with, and not be able to help them when it's already, they're going belly up and ready to close their doors. So I'm glad to be here. Nice to meet everyone.
Great. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you again, Priya. Anna, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you. So this is my third time attending this meeting, and it's really, really very useful time. My name is Anna, and I specialize in financial protection and planning. So that's me. Thank you.
Excellent. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you again. And Lady Laura Bentancur. Did I say it right?
Yes. Hello. Yeah, I pronounce it in Spanish, Lady Laura. But yeah, my name is Lady Laura Betancourt. I found this group just on Eventbrite. I love going to Eventbrite and look for networking events. That's how I found you, and I saw, oh, they meet every month, so that's good. That is like a constant group. and I'm looking to, to networking. I'm based in Houston, Texas. What I do is solar. I help homeowners switch to solar energy with zero money out of pocket. But we work in 20 different states in the United States. So we help homeowners, and we also recruit people who want to learn how to sell solar from their home. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I will make sure I'm here every month and being able to share with you.
Excellent. We're so glad that you came to visit with us today. So Jason Madden, I know you're joining us at the tail end of our introductions, but we're doing a real quick around the room, who you are, what business or company you represent, and who invited you. You're on mute, Jason. It wouldn't be a Zoom meeting if.
Yeah, if we didn't do the mute thing. So yeah, I found the meeting off of Eventbrite, just kind of perusing through networking events. So anyway, my name is Jason Madden. I own a company called Mad Logic. I help businesses build automations and data integrations. Kind of my background is software and software engineering. So I've been doing it for 10 years. And the last 5 years have been a mix of consulting and being as a small business owner. So just kind of looking out to connect with other people.
Excellent, Jason. We're so glad that you're with us. And Cortland, one of our long-term joiners. I know you just logged in. We're finishing up our introductions. If you'd like to introduce yourself, sir, Cortland.
Sure,
There
sorry
you
about
are.
that.
No worries.
I have COVID, so I apologize. I'll try to minimize my time. Hi, I'm Cortland Emmel, CEO of Pseudocol Labs in Dallas, Texas. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Cortland. Excellent. And we have a few coaches here that you saw on the screen. You guys wave. Dennis, myself, Troy, Sean, Bill, thank you guys all for being here. We're so excited to have each of you on for our mastermind this month. So with that, we're going to be talking about 80-20. How many of you have heard of Pareto's Principle before? Anybody? You use it on a regular basis? It applies to just about anything, right? Doesn't it? It really does. We spend 80% of our time really working on, I hope, the 20% of the things that are most important, right? And 20% of our revenue, or excuse me, 80% of our revenue is driven by 20% of our clients. It's interesting how that works, right? So where are you spending your time, and how does that Pareto's Principle or the 80-20 apply to you? So we lost Mark, which is always an interesting thing. We love technology. Dennis, do you have something queued up over there so that we could start a discussion? You're on mute.
You could give me, if you could give me 2 minutes, if you could fill in some time, I can absolutely pull something up real quick.
Yeah, you bet. And then maybe Troy, could you in the background check on Mark and see see maybe what happened there? I would appreciate it. So when we talk about Pareto's Principle and that 80-20, and you think about all of the tasks as a business owner or leader that you're engaged with on a daily basis, are you really spending your time wisely? Here he comes. Mark Rhodes is joining us. I love technology. Are you really spending quality time in the space that you should be spending it in? Is everything that you're doing right now, is what I'm doing right now geared towards my goal, right? The end game. And how much energy am I putting into that? Hello, Mark Rhodes. We're having a conversation over here.
Out of my control is all I can say. I feel bad, but it's out of my control.
No worries at all. You should be good to go if you're ready to share the topic there.
Yeah, let me pull up share and.
Dennis, thank you for doing the dance in the background. Or wait, maybe that was me.
Bear with me here.
It's a good thing I know a little bit about the topic.
Yeah. All right, let's see. I'm going to share, And hopefully we'll run right into all right.
You're perfect, Mark. Go for it.
You guys can see that okay? Okay,
Yes, sir.
again, hey, folks, thank you for letting me share with you today this concept. I'm looking kind of very forward to it. You can see my screen okay then? All right. My name again is Mark Rhodes, and so nice of you to take time out of your day. It's exciting for us to meet new people and share. I learn a lot from these things, these kinds of conversations through your experiences. So it's great to not only be able to coach, but also to learn from your experiences. A lot of interesting people on the phone or on the Zoom call. So thanks again. You know, this concept called Pareto Principle is one that I am really excited to share with you. This principle is one that in my career, which was about 38 years in the financial services industry, was one that I applied without understanding it often. I never understood necessarily the power of it until I actually became a focal point coach. And it became clear to me that it's a principle that applies across most everything I ever did when I was leading organizations or groups. And I found that I was being effective. And trust me, I was many times ineffective. And oftentimes it was because I didn't apply this principle of 80-20 or Pareto's principle. So with that said, as a background, agenda wise, I just want to take you through the concept of Pareto Principle and what it actually involves, how it comes about in today's personal and professional world. I want to talk to you through what it can actually mean for you in your business or in a situation where you're trying to make improvements in either product, process, team, people, time, really the things that matter to all of us. And there's an actual quantitative application that you can look at and say, gosh, it could be a multiple of improvement for me. And there's a way to establish that multiple. And then lastly, you know, I look forward mostly to just open discussions about your experiences, you know, about the coach's experiences with situations, where it's worked, and frankly, where it doesn't work, and why there are times when perhaps we struggle with the application of it. What gets in the way of that? So with that said, again, thank you. And let's jump right into the concept of Pareto's principle. In simple terms, Pareto's principle is the 80-20 rule. We've heard that all our life. This is not a new concept, but it is a principle that often goes less applied than it is in terms of its notoriety. It states that the minority of inputs or effort usually lead to the majority of the results. Now, I believe that to be completely true. I believe it's one of the more powerful concepts that business owners, executives, people who are leading teams, and in your own personal life that you can recognize and apply. A gentleman named Richard Koch, K-O-C-H, wrote a book called The Breakthrough Principle of 80-20. And in that, he, in essence, suggests that we can replace 80% less effective activities with more of the 20% effective activities. Then productivity can increase. Simple, again, concept, no surprises there, but oftentimes goes unapplied. We'll come back to Mr. Koch and some of the quantitative work he's done around the focus around 20% and how it can change your life. And then just finally, the concept of Pareto's is one that was brought about by Joe Duran somewhere in the 1940s, late 40s, I believe, maybe 30s, forgive me, but he suggests that the vital few versus the trivial many. And I have been in organizations, I have been a part of organizations that focused on the trivial many. They used to give us spreadsheets called the critical few. And you would think the critical few would be the vital few, right? But it was the critical many. And it made leadership and management and results incredibly difficult to achieve. We would have 25 or 30 metrics. And I had senior leadership that I worked for who were very talented people, but they thought everything was important often, and not everything is important. And I think that's the message that Pareto's principle focuses on. Perhaps the single most utilized and underutilized concept in the world of, marketing and management consulting is Pareto's principle. It's a universal principle of modern improvement theory. So it's really key, I think, if you're in the improvement business and the improvement stage of a company. The historical beginnings, is this really important that you know? We're going to find out. So here's a little history. I'll be quick. Vilfredo Pareto began the 80-20 rule when he was studying patterns of wealth in the 1890s in Italy. He studied patterns of wealth specifically in real estate, and he found that there were trends. And those trends seemed to follow the guideline of 80-20. 20% of the wealthiest population owned 80% of the property. Now this to you and I is like, duh, we get it. I know, that's the world. Well, it wasn't so obvious then. Think about the lack of communication, the lack of ability to see what others are doing. He put it into real world terms. Frankly, though, he didn't call it Pareto Principle. It was just 80-20, and it was a topic. And it started to apply and take legs only in about when Joseph Duran in the 1940s, a US citizen, with a sociology, economics background, started to do work around the 80-20 rule. And he's the person who founded and discussed Pareto Principle. He came up with the concept and he applied it across industry, culture, Six Sigma, time management. And he started in Japan post-war. He actually changed the Japanese single-handedly industrial post-war economy based on the Pareto Principle. So it's very, lived to be 95 years old or so, died 6 or 7 years ago, a real powerhouse in the world of improvement. So that's certainly enough history. I put this, and forgive me, this poor graph in here because here's why. This explains the Pareto Principle in the real world. Let's pretend for a second this were your graph or my graph, and I was trying to distinguish, and I had a problem. And my problem was I had too many errors on a process or processes, and I wanted to lessen those errors because they were killing my efficiency, they were killing my profitability, they were killing my morale, they were killing my customer service, whatever you're measuring. This graph is the best way to decide whether Pareto's Principle can apply to your business or your situation. You simply track the number of events that you want to lessen. And that can be seen at the bottom of the page where you see the letters G, J, M, Q, B. Those are events with specific descriptions attached to them that are, in this case, errors in a process. And you can see there's various kinds that could come up. You also then track the sheer number of those errors on the left column, which you can't see, but it's graphed in the blue graphs. So in G, that's the most errors, right? If you run out to the right, you can then begin to see from 0 to 100 is the percentage total. And it's easy to figure out. If I looked at that graph and I wanted to say, where are the errors coming from? What do we need to focus on? Someone might hand me a list of from G to P, all those stats and they mean nothing to me. I don't know which to focus on. That's a linear way of thinking about problem resolution and about improvement. What you've now done is take a linear process and you've made it usable and accessible for problem resolution and improvement, because now you know actually most of the problems are in the first 4 categories. I can get an 86% improvement if I just focus on them. I don't want to spend all my energy, time, equity, brain power on anything that's not in category 1, G, J, M, or Q. So that's just a graphic design. You might say, why a graph? Pie charts don't work when you're trying to get a visual and to establish what's really affecting and what activities could you use to improve. This is the way, if I were gonna try to describe to someone, it would be this way in my mind, to where they would be able to quickly identify what needs to be done. It could be clients, it could be processes, it could be, team development. Where's your leverage? All can be a graph and applied to Pareto in this way. Now, this is really perhaps to me the most important part, because if you can't figure out what's the benefit to applying Pareto in your practice, in your business, in your life, then there's no motivation. There's no benefit to you necessarily. Well, Richard Koch, who I referenced earlier, the breakthrough principle, quantitatively breaks it down like this. This is the way to supercharge your results in your respective field, to apply the 80-20 rule. But specifically, you're focused on the 20%. What's the 20% mean? What could it actually do for me? And here's going to be an example. In Koch's book, he decides quantitatively that an 80-20, if 80-20 is true, then you can have a 16 times multiple on that activity over an activity that doesn't fall into that 20%. That's a significant motivation for me as a business owner, as a coach, to apply the Pareto principle, knowing that if we do this right, I can really garner more time, more revenue, more results, more client happiness, more client service at a level of 16 times, by the way, or more. If 16 applies to 20%, the value of time, talent, products, and processes. So here's an example. Sorry for the small print. I'll read it. 10 customers service you. I'm sorry, 10 customers use service. Let's just use a number. Say they pay you $1,000 per day. 2 of those 10 pay you $800 total. That means they take up 20% of your time. 8 of them pay you $200, or a total of $25 each. They take up 80% of your time. 2 customers give you 80 units of reward for 20 units of effort, or payback of 4 per unit of effort, 4 per unit of effort in those 20% customers that pay you that $800. So keep that in mind. 8 customers give you 20 units of reward for 80 units of effort, and they pay you 0.25 per unit. Well, that's 16 times for the same amount of effort. Now, if those were my customers and I were coaching you as a client, or you as a business owner, or a friend for that matter, I would make sure you understood that the time spent with those 2 customers is invaluable, and that the returns that you could get by tweaking more time with them. I'm not suggesting no time with the other 8 customers. What I'm saying is conscious effort around understanding that if I spend more time with those 2 customers, or those 2 events, or those 2 processes, or that time I devote to specific energy around, the highest, best use of my time, the payback is enormous. By the way, if your metric is instead not 80-20, but it's 90-10, which is not unusual in a business I came from, where 10% of the revenues are driven by, 90% of the revenues are driven by 10% of the population. The return there is 81 times. So my point is, it's not a perfect equation, but it's got to grab your mind to say, I get it. I need to focus my attention on the most important thing. Thus suggested by this. By the way, if it goes 70-30, it's a 9 times your return if you just do the same quantitative exercise. It's quantitative benefits, successful implementation of the 80-20 rule, just continued here. Know the best use of your energy is much more important than trying harder or working longer. I got to tell you, in my experience in business, this was a common theme where I would see really hardworking human beings giving it everything they had and working long hours, but they were not effective because they were doing the wrong activities or focused on the wrong client base or focused on the wrong process or frustrated with, things that were getting their way that stopped them from using the time more effectively or the energy more effectively. What part of 80% is dust in the scales? Think about that. If I knew 80% of my time is dust in the scales, meaning not really affecting anything, it would make me wonder about, okay, I only have so much life left. I have so much energy and time. I've got to use it best and wisest. And that's really the exercise of Pareto's law or Pareto's rule or 80-20 rule. The unspoken corollary, though, this is a little difficult for me to handle sometimes, is that the unspoken corollary to 80-20 principle is potentially uncomfortable to acknowledge that a lot of things I'm doing aren't really effective. So stop doing them. Focus on the things that are effective. And recognize, here's the thing that I learned at Focal Point, with my peers. Small changes have large effects. Small changes have large effects. And there are enormous payoffs in applying rules like this. Focus on the one thing. Or, as we like to say, the focal point. And I didn't realize what focal point means until I, was lucky enough to find this great company and these great people. And now I understand, really, focal point is the one thing that will matter the most, that we want you to do, that you want to do, that can affect you in a positive way and give you control, time, revenues, success, quality of life, the one thing. And 80-20 rule will force you to find the one thing. Let go of the trivial many and focus on the vital few. With that said, I would love to open this up for your thoughts. Those are some simple thoughts just to prompt the conversation. Trish, I'll go back to you, or
yeah, that was great, Mark. Thank you for really digging into this 80-20. A lot of us didn't have that information. Really, just we've heard it so much. So who is really practicing this as a leader in your business or even as a business owner? Joe, I love it. So weigh in here. Joe, tell us how you're using this 80-20 in your business.
Well, when I first started the business, I spent 80% of my time figuring out what I was going to do the other 20% of the time. And then it's starting to change now, where I'm doing 20% process improvement and 80% of the other activities. So you'll see that this 80-20 rule does apply everywhere, but you have to think about when it does flip from one side to the other. So I spend 80% of my time on online networking and 20% on coupons and other ways of gathering leads. So
that's excellent. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Joe. Does anybody else have an example? A struggle? Go ahead, Eli.
Actually, I'm in I don't know if I should call it a struggle, but in a challenge. When I got here to the US, I started one thing, and now I'm thinking about changing it. And sometimes I find myself overthinking and putting most of the time just planning ahead and thinking and trying to find like the perfect solution. But I know, and I have some limitations with the visa that doesn't allow me the freedom to do whatever I want. But either way, I think that I need to do the change to go over from 80% of thinking and 20% of just started doing, and just do the opposite and just start trying new things 80% of the time, and giving 20% of the time choosing and analyzing what is best for me. So this is on the phase where I'm at, which my business is a little bit changing its direction.
I love that. Who are the people out there that are perfectionists? And we spend a lot of time, right, trying to be perfectionists. So we are spending 80% of our time trying to be perfect. And you think about all of the opportunities, right, that we miss. So I'm going to kick this over to somebody who I know, I see, expert. Everything has to be exceptional, and learning that you got to get past that, right? So that we're applying more energy to the activities versus trying to make things perfect. Dennis?
Sure. Thanks for putting me on the spot.
You're welcome.
No, actually, as a really high C, I do, I tend to try to overanalyze things to the extent that it just becomes minutia, right? So that chart that Mark pulled up, I would spend days and days and days trying to make that perfect. And what data am I missing? But there's a simplification, and I've got a client, and she came forward one day, and we were going through EQ, and her statement was, well, Dennis, what if I become aware that I just don't care? I don't care enough to go into that deep detail, right? So how do I recognize? So she's like a bottom line, get there fast kind of person. And she said, how do I know I'm in 80-20 situation? How do I know I'm not applying it? And the way we summarized it was, when you think about doing something, does it cause you stress? If there's a stressful conversation, or there's a piece of your business, or there's a piece of your team, or there's a part of your team or people that you're working with that it just causes you stress, and you defer it and you delay it, that means you're applying extra effort to something that maybe doesn't require it, or you're applying extra effort and not leveraging your superpower. Maybe you should find someone else to do that, because you're expending way too much energy. If it's causing you stress, you shouldn't do it. You should find another way to get through that. Leverage your superpower and spend 20% of your effort. That's where your superpower lives. That's what you're really, really good at. Expend that 20% of effort against the 80% of those things that are going to make a difference in your business. And I had a really, really good example in high school. There was a teacher, his name was Mr. Childs, and Mr. Childs taught Photoshop. And his passion, what he was really good at, was teaching people how to get the best picture, make the most of nature. And that was what he loved. He didn't like the academics behind, teaching necessarily. He just wanted to help people. And so, his opening statement at the end of every photo, at the beginning of every semester, was, my name is Mr. Childs, and I don't believe in stress. I wear clogs with no socks. Why? Because you have to match socks. That causes me stress. Regular shoes have shoelaces. You have to tie them. That causes me stress. You'll notice that all of my outfits are in neutral colors. Matching colors is stressful. I don't do it. I had a wife. She caused me stress. I'm no longer married. The difference between an A and an F is the angle of a single line. In my class, you get an A or you get an F. Doesn't cause me any stress to put that one line at a different angle. If you show up, I'll help you. If you don't show up, I get to spend more time with the people who want my help. Doesn't cause me stress. And so that, I consciously run that through my head. It really does apply. It's kind of a simplification for those people who become aware that they don't care, right? how do you know you're in an 80-20 type scenario where you need to look at where you're spending your time? Is it causing you stress? And if it is, then start to run through that 80-20 scenario. Where am I spending the time and what benefit am I getting out of it? Right. I love that, Mr. Childs. I didn't know it was 80-20. I didn't know it was zero-based thinking. I just thought Mr. Childs is kind of a cool guy. But it's paid off, right? In real life. That simple example it was a way that I got Carrie and even myself, right? So I apply that to myself when I tend to overanalyze. I'm like, all right, is this causing me stress? Is the stress behind making it perfect? Is that really worth it? Or should I just move ahead? And so I hope that was helpful. Just a simplification exercise, as it were.
Definitely.
Dennis, was that a real teacher?
It was, yeah. Mr. Childs. Mr. Childs was a teacher at Glenbard West High School. You can look him up. He had a cult-like following. I imagine there are still stories around, but yeah, Glenbard West High School, which is where I went to school. It was actually, if any of you are old enough to remember Lucas, the movie, that was filmed at my school. So Mr. Childs was a teacher there. Absolutely real.
Well, and Steve Jobs must have had his class because he kind of picked up on the dressing deal the same way, right? And a lot of executives have. Yeah, look at Captain Joe, right? He doesn't have to think about what he does in the morning. And Eli, I'll tell you this, one other thing that Jobs said is, you can never connect the dots looking forward. It's easy to do when you're looking back. So the best way to start is to start. And for a perfectionist, which believe me, I'm a control freak as well, it's hard to do, right? We want everything right. We want everything lined up so that the predictability of it being correct is high, and you'll never get there. It just doesn't happen. Even Seth Godin, the great marketer, says just ship it. You're going to change it anyway. So I would just encourage you to, if you've got a great idea and you know what you want, your passion will carry you through. You'll get there.
But another quick 80-20 thought came to mind, and then I'll be quiet. But the difference between a right answer and a wrong answer, if you're not the one actually putting your fingers on the keyboard, sometimes 80% is good, and 80% is actually the best answer, because the difference between the right answer and the wrong one is your ego. If you're not the one actually doing the work, and you're stressing over that 20% and saying, well, that's the wrong answer, then the answer is your ego. Put the control back into the hands of the people who are doing it, because by the time you learn it, second guess it, analyze it, write it up, and determine that it's wrong, time has passed. Things have changed. And that person actually doing the work, they're the right people to make that decision.
Yeah.
So that
Hey,
control,
Dennis.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that's a great point. I think when some people hear the 80-20 rule, they think I'm eliminating the 80. Well, no, not necessarily. That's not good either. What you're really doing is reprocessing how it gets done, either through new process or delegation to people to have ownership. But it's not like the business can function without the 80. It still needs all those things to be processed and done. But is it the best use of your skill and talent? And the answer is usually no. It's usually you just haven't let go of the reins, and you've got to do that. I do some, this is a little off the mark, but I think it's appropriate. I do some coaching for tennis. It's something I love. I've done it my whole life. And I see people come in with this talented skill set, right? And they always want to, and they're all equally very talented, but they always want to fix something that's not working. I admire that. But really what matters, the people who win have a weapon, a giant weapon, and they use it all the time. And instead of worrying about what they don't do well and trying to make that just perfect, okay? As we said, perfect is the enemy of good. They should focus on the weapon, meaning the 20%. It's the same concept. So it applies across so many things. I seldom see great athletes, business owners, politicians, who are so well-rounded. You know, they're just so well-rounded. No, they have flaws, but they have greatness. And it comes from their focus on the 20.
Does anybody have a tip or a trick that you use to get out of that mode, right? You know, you're way too focused. You're spending way too much time on this one task or this one client that you know is not paying you back in return. What are some tips or tricks that you use to kind of pull yourself back out of that situation?
I'll say that I've had where I'm taking too much time on a client and I really need to hand it off to one of my team and to fix that and just not be in it like, okay, I can get this done faster and knowing that I shouldn't be in the business, I should be working on the business, but I will switch to a different client and completely change my task what I'm doing just to break it and stop it and even step away from my desk for 10 minutes and then come back and just clear my head and come back to what tasks I need to be focused on and can hand that off.
Yeah, that's great. I like to call my tip the 15-minute rule. If I've spent more than 15 minutes on it and I'm not producing anything, it's time to shift, right? So using that 15-minute rule, set a timer, particularly if you're working on a project that you've revisited several times, right? Walk away from it. And Greg, I love that you're delegating. That's a lovely way for us to back out and work on our business.
That's a hard thing to do, but yes.
It is. It is. And the good news is you can learn it, right? It takes lots of practice. It's hard. Sean, you said you're a control freak. Some people call themselves, perfectionists. I too am a control freak. I'm not a perfectionist. I don't know that that makes it any better, right? But it's hard, Greg, you're right. It's hard to let go of that. There are so many levels of delegation, right? There's trust that has to be built in to get from a 1 to a 5. And it's something we can learn as leaders. That delegation doesn't come easy, right? We have to practice. Good.
And to kind of echo on that, like, because I'm automation, I do automation and stuff, you don't have to delegate to people. You could delegate to technology. And like, there's things like if I download a spreadsheet and upload it somewhere and I have to do that every week, I don't do it anymore. I write a script that does it for me. And that's kind of what I built my business model around. But it's kind of those distinctions of like knowing when you just do the same thing all the time to know.
That is such a fantastic point. We overlook that way too much. Technology can solve a lot of these problems. Right?
Yeah, and some of us are still just amazed that the TV puts a picture on it. So
I'm with you, Sean. Like, technology scares me, but that's Jason's superpower, right? So Jason is amazing at that. And so I would go to Jason and say, can you help me with this project? That is another form of delegation, right? We may call it outsourcing in a business or in a company, but it is another form of delegation. Letting someone who is amazing at that particular thing, let them do it. Because you don't like doing it anyway, likely.
Another thing, hi guys, sorry I was late for the meeting, so I'm another colleague of Trisha and folks. But I think the question, is this good and is this good enough, is a good question to ask yourself, and only experience will get you there. But for example, if you're sending an important email, spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, forgetting to put capital letters, all that stuff, that's not good enough. But you've got to make sure that that stuff's right. But if you spend hours tinkering with, shall I put that paragraph before that one, you're in the wrong 80% then. And it's something we all tend to do. I must get this right, I must get this right. But actually, you're good enough, maybe easily good enough for the person that you're sending it to.
Excellent. I always like to ask, is what I'm doing right now, this minute, is what I'm doing right now contributing to my goal? whatever that is. It could be your BHAG, it could be an objective underneath a bigger goal, but is what I'm doing right now contributing to my goal?
Shouldn't it always be?
I sure hope so, but sometimes it's not, right?
80% of the time.
That's right, Captain Joe. Love it.
Oh, that's a
Anybody-
great point. A lot of people will be checking email, right? Is that really the best use of my time right now? Is it the most important thing that I should be doing right now to advance whatever my goal is? It's an easy thing to do because it gives us, I can check that box. Oh, I checked email. Oh, I better go. And then down the rabbit holes we go. And it gives us that sensory pleasure, but it's not the most important thing. Or as Brian Tracy would talk about the frog, right? What's your frog? How are we going to work on that? How are we going to do that? When are we going to focus on it? That's a huge issue. Good point.
I'd say that something that I always found useful, I'm one of the coaches on the call also, but I've led companies for about 30 years before I moved into coaching. And I thought it was very valuable for long periods of time, but every Sunday night I'd take a few hours and just remind myself, what are the highest value things I have to make sure I keep on the plan for the coming week. And when things get chaotic during the week, I could always refer back to that list to remind me of, okay, is this time spent really bringing attention to those priorities that were absolutely critical for this week or 2 week period of time. So just a couple hours when it's quiet Sunday night, I found it just tremendously valuable as a good reminder. What is the 20% super high value that delivers a 80% of the great week from focusing on that? And the other thing that I'll offer is that as a manager, it's very important to provide guidance to your employees. And because on the one hand, you can be delegating things to them that are not in your 20%, but suddenly they can be overwhelmed with the things that are on their plate. And it's a fact. It's just painful to confront how limited time is, how limited our time is, how limited our employees' time is. And I guess help employees that work for you with prioritizing. It's not get everything done. It's what's the most important things for them also to get done. So I think that's just acknowledging that tough choices are inevitable for you as a person, as well as your employees that are working for you or for clients. Tough choices are inevitable, and you won't have time for it all. Life is limited. Your time is limited. You absolutely will not have time for it all. So every time you make a choice, I try to remind myself, every time you commit some of your time, that's part of your life. And so that's a good reminder of, is this really worth my time? My time on this planet is limited. So is it really valuable? Or am I doing something that's going to interrupt me being able to do something that I did dream that was really important? So it's kind of recognizing that time is limited and recognizing you have to spend your life on the things that make the difference, and don't let your time get consumed with things that don't. I find valuable.
Well, some of the most successful people in the world say that, right? Warren Buffett, Walt Disney, they said the hardest thing to do is learn to say no. And you should say no much more than you say yes, protecting your time. So yeah, another great point, Bill.
Just to add on, Bill, you're spot on. I know our co-founder, Brian Tracy, which we referred to earlier, talks about time as a perishable. And he also says time, now you think about this in your life, time is love. Interesting concept, right? When you give time to people, you are giving, if it's family, it's love. You can't replace it. So I thought it was an interesting concept. If you think about it being important in your family, think about the same concept to your business. What do you love? What can you love more? What can you do to provide love for yourself and your business and your family? And it is time, but that's a choice, right? Which is what 80/20 is about.
Dennis, you have your hand up?
Yeah, well, because you usually go around and ask everybody what they're taking away from this.
So you don't have
No,
you don't
wait, let me finish. But I wanted to insert it because I know you're not going to be able to go around to ask everybody. So I just wanted to give my takeaway based on what Bill said. And my key takeaway is, as the mimosas wear off on Sunday, proactively check your calendar and create a list. That's what I'm taking away. That is that's what I'm walking away with. So thank you, Bill, for that. I'm going to develop a new habit.
All right. So the next time you raise your hand with the little guy, I'm not calling on you. I'm just gonna mute you. So we have a couple of minutes left, and just to get everybody back on with their day, is there any like aha moment or takeaway that you really feel like you want to share before we part today? Priya, go ahead.
Add something that I tell my clients with this pandemic and everything. I've gotten a lot of solopreneurs, and they will ask what is something that they can, how they can, like going back to the 80-20, what should they focus on? And I tell them, you are a full 100%. Bring your full 100% on board first. And then from there, you decide what are all your experiences have taught you, the lessons, the nuggets, the strengths, all of that. And then take from that what you want to take forward with you. Don't leave half of yourself behind and then try to figure out, how do I modify this or make this strong for my business? No, bring all of yourself first and then go from there.
That is awesome. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Eli. Last comment here. Go ahead.
So if it's last comment, I'll give other people to speak because I already.
It's okay. No one else raised their hand. Eli, it's all you.
Okay. So one take I remembered is when I had a aha moment a few years ago. Is I said I'm really into financial freedom and how to run a budget in your household, and then I realized why I'm not looking at my time and energy the same way, to budget it, to track it, and to see what's the most or the biggest ROI I can get on this time and energy that I'm spending. And then it suddenly makes things a little bit more easier because as you said before, you're asking, is this taking me forward towards my goal or not? And if it's not, then it needs to be cut away right away. Now, a lot of the time I have the tendency to procrastinate and go do the things I like. And I just started looking at those things and realized that what will be the result if I procrastinate and I just go to do things I like and not doing the things I need. But on the opposite, and it's a little bit confusing, I do think you need to procrastinate the things that are not taking you forward, and you need to do it. But sometimes don't need to do it now. You're just doing it because it's easy to do it now, but you can do it later. You can decide about it later. So just procrastinate the things that are not effective, and look at time as money, on time and effort. So this is like my aha take from a few years ago, and you reminded me that I a little bit forgot it along the way, being busy. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Jeremy, it might be after 1. Thank you all for being
with us today, and hope you enjoyed today's flight as she's locked up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean, for inviting me.
I came back. I got kicked out and then I came back. Eli, I heard exactly what you said. I love that you're using consequences to weigh where you're working. You guys have an amazing day, and we hope to see you on March 10th at lunch again.
Have a good month.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.